Sorry. Hi, guys. I keep a little bag in the back of my chair. My reflex. So pretend didn't see what you saw. I thought I could get it off before the camera started rolling. All right. So, as you can see, I am all dolled up. It's because I wanted to make sure I look my best for you guys for this holiday because it's New Year's Eve. Um, some of you probably won't see this until after today, but this is the dress that I bought. I was going to wear for my daughter's wedding, but she did not invite me. In the Bible, it does say that those who are of Satan will know their own, and those who are of God will know their own because it will be written in their forehead. Oh, you can say I have nothing on my forehead, but those of us who belong to God, we know we belong to God because we recognize each other. We recognize God in each other. And clearly, my daughter does not have God walking with her, or she wouldn't have been that cold hearted. I've never done anything to deserve it, but in any way, even though I didn't get to use the dress that I bought for her wedding, I am going to make use of it for New Year's and any future wedding someone might invite me to. You don't know. So today, I wanted to not just wish you a belated Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, but I wanted to discuss sin and its effect on us, how it interrupts our walk with God, and the plans that you should have for the new year. Most people, their plans is to lose weight or to get out of debt. Those are earthly things. For God, make your New Year resolution to be more mindful of your sinfulness and begin to work on those bad habits you've adapted from the world. A lot of people harp on the Bible, the Bible, the Bible, read the Bible, study the Bible. The Bible's not going to get you into heaven. Your relationship and your repentance gets you into heaven. So I am not going to tell you to study the Bible. I'm going to tell you to work on your relationship with God and your own soul. I'm going to ask you to spend the year reflecting on your behavior, on your words, your feelings, the things you think. Catch them and make note of them. The first step to correcting yourself is to become aware of yourself, to become aware of the traps that trigger certain things that you do that are sinful and learn to avoid them. So that's what I wanted to do right off the bat, is get you all prepared for New Year's. So you have a perfect resolution to start with. And now for the part. So I'm going to share my screen. Window. I am only doing my Excel spreadsheet because I do have my sticky notes up. I'm not closing them. It's a pain in the neck to pull them up and then rearrange them again. So as you can see, this here is my research that I've been doing. A lot of people would have moved past Genesis by now. But what you don't know is that when you're studying the Bible, if you go slow, you take your time, and you really contemplate on what you're reading, you'll pull so much out from just one section, just one reading. And that's why I am a year later still working on the same place in Genesis. I got as far as Joseph. I got as far as Joseph with his brothers, where they reconciled in Egypt. And then I backtracked because I realized I could make which I'm telling you this because you might want to do this, and make your own spreadsheet. I use Excel. I don't know what, maybe you have Google Sheets or something like that, where each tab has something you want to break down. So, as you know, I have a timeline. You have your Adam and Eve, our original parents, earthly parents. And then you have Cain and Abel, and he's in red because no, Cain could not hold back his emotions that caused him to sin. And if you notice, just a little ways down, right? Then you see Seth is born. Then you see other sons and daughters. You don't see other sons and daughters born between Cain and Seth. You see them born after Seth. And then you see all these children that belong to Cain and Seth. And you'll notice some of the names are actually pretty similar, right? Now, I put this timeline together originally. It was the very first thing I did. And I had based it on what the Bible said, who was born when their father was so many years old. That's how you see these numbers here. They start at 0. 0 is when Adam and Eve was born. And it just keeps going. I believe I may have made the assumption of 70 years old being when Cain and Abel, because Seth over here, I put 130 years old for Cain. I mean, what do you call it? Whatever it was I had done. I believe it was Seth was born to Adam when Adam was 130 years old. There you go. Sorry. I had to struggle with my wording. Let me make sure you can see me well. The camera is not the best. There we are. I apologize for my mess. This time of the year is not easy for me. I love Christmas. It's my favorite holiday. But Christmas is when I lose a lot of family. They like to cross over either during Easter or Christmas. And I just had a cousin that passed away yesterday. I'm telling you, my family, for some reason, when they say goodbye, they're like, it's time to celebrate. All right, I better head over to heaven so I can catch on that feast. Okay. So anyhow, this first page that I have, you might also want. I'm pointing in that direction because I got two monitors. This monitor is the camera, and this monitor is the Excel sheet that I'm actually showing you. So when I'm pointing to it, I'm pointing to the Excel sheet that you're seeing. So I have the timeline. And then as I went through and I grabbed some insights, I threw them here, like did the fact that God told Abraham about the slavery in Egypt that was going to happen, the one where Moses had to free everyone. Abraham was forewarned about that. And God just explained it to him. So, wherever he went, when it was his time, and he could still see what was happening, he wouldn't get upset. And God basically says that whole thing that goes on, that slavery, where the people are taken to Egypt and put in slavery, that's actually a maneuver to prevent them from being wiped out by the Amorites, because the Amorites are beyond wicked. I have no idea who the Amorites are, but they're definitely descendants of Cain. Okay, so like these little things I've done as I'm going through the Bible. I don't know if you plan to do it for yourself. In one of our past studies, I've gone over the days of Genesis, and I explained to you that there's still going to be light even if God takes away the stars and the sun and the moon, because God made light before he even filled up the sky. So don't worry when that happens. So Now I'm at the part where I'm focusing on the family of Adam and Eve. So, yeah, Seth was born when Adam was 130 years old, and he lived to be another 800. So altogether, he was 930 years old. It doesn't say how old Eve was. The Bible is really biased. I don't know if it's because God is a male. Didn't think he had a gender, but we always say he when we speak of him. But it seems like when God inspired the Bible to be written, anything that mentions a woman isn't really going into very good detail. But look at how detailed they have with the men. They even tell you when they gave birth to a son and when they died. But no mention of the woman who partook in the childbirth, who carried that child for probably nearly 10 months, because that's a normal pregnancy length. The suffering the woman has to do raising the child. None of this is mentioned. But if a man has to raise sheep, that's mentioned. If a man has to pull a thing on the field to keep it tamed, the land, to tame the land so he can grow crops, that gets mentioned. But never is it mentioned about a woman. I'm not saying God is sexist, because if he were sexist, he wouldn't have given Jesus' mother such a huge spotlight. And she's given quite a big spotlight in the New Testament. So I think the problem is that God probably recognizes the hearts of man and knows how self-centered it is. So he just put out there what had to be put out there. But I believe that when you get to heaven, when you're ready and you can talk to God, you'll probably find that he loves us females, because look at how awesome we are. He put more work into us than he did the man. Men were made simple. Us women, we are extremely complex built. So it's hard to tell a man about a woman when he can't even wrap himself around it. And I think that's the reason why it doesn't talk about when Eve died or when Eve gave birth to her other children. Oh my goodness. I'd love to know what kind of life she lived. Okay, now on to Cain. That bad boy. So, Abel, he liked to raise the animals. He gave the good fat to God as an offering, whereas Cain, he just raised crops and gave that as an offering to God. And when God enjoyed the good fat of the animal, and just showed Abel how much he appreciated his offering, Cain felt like he was snubbed because nothing came in his direction. Well, animals are a being. They also have a heart. They also have a soul. Plants don't have a soul. They're just a fiber that grows out of the earth. Yes, it takes a lot of effort for them to come to fruition, but it's going to happen whether us humans are involved or not. Whereas with animals, they may end up dying out, which throughout the course of time, humanity has seen the endangerment of species and their flame being crushed, them becoming non-existent anymore because man wasn't tending to them. So yeah, there is a difference. God needs us to take care of the animals, but he doesn't need us to take care of the land. The land is its own sentient. It's capable of its own things. If you let it go, it will create herbs that can be used for medicine. It will not need our hand. So I can understand why God did not give Cain any thanks, you know? I mean, it's, and at the same time, I can also see Cain's point. These are all grains and things that he labored through to bring to fruition. But in his arrogance, he believed that they were there because of him. You know, you can't give back something that belonged to God to start with. If God didn't get involved, didn't provide the rain, you see what happens to crops when there's no rain, right? If he didn't provide the proper airflow, I don't know how many of you are aware, but there's times in the year where the wind acts very crazy. That's not God. That's something else going on. But for the most part, the weather is under God's control. Every last bit of it, every angle you look at belongs to God. And the flowers, the grains, the fruits, all of it requires the correct aeration and watering to be able to grow, as well as the right amount of sunlight. That's all up to God. The best a man can do to contribute to this, to the growth of the plants, is to ensure that when there's a drought, that the plants still get water. That to make sure that if there's going to be a heavy rainfall, that the crops are covered so they're not drowned out. Basically, managing their growth, but they're not doing the growing themselves. Now you have farmers today who they will plant the seed, they will irrigate the land, and they will ensure that the plants are not just managed but weeded, so there's no weeds on their base stealing the nutrition, that the ground has the right balance so that the crops can grow. So yeah, I can see if Cain were doing all this, why Cain would want God's, nod of his head, because that is work. It's just that in God's perspective, he probably believed, it's nice that you did that, but they would still have, I willed it, would have grown. So Cain, I can understand what happened there. Can you? Would you have been able to understand that whole thing? No comments. Well, you can always, just leave a comment later, even after the video's done. So, God tells Cain, he sees Cain's emotions. If you act rightly, you will be accepted, right? You'll get that nod you want. But if not, sin lies in wait at the door. It's urged for you, yet you can rule over it. So this is the thing I was starting the video off with, talking to you about sin. What we want our honor. We want recognition. We basically want to be loved. But if anything, takes away our face, reputation, then it gets us upset. And that's all it takes, is for emotions to step in. And that's when Satan comes in and starts whispering in our ears. And I do mean whisper. He's not saying, go for it, go for it, go for it. You can do it, go, go, go. He's not doing that in our ear. He's going, what if you show them who you are? What if you take that shovel and you smack him in the back of the head? What if you let the world know you're the only one? That's the kind of stuff you'll hear in your ear from Satan. Encouragement to do things that you would never in your own mind have thought to do. And those thoughts coming across your head are actual whispers from Satan. And we don't even recognize them because they sound like they're in our own voice. So beware of that. When you're going through your thing, beware of your emotions. Beware of the thoughts that come after the emotions. And beware of how you think about the thoughts. So I want a cookie. I'm hungry. The first thing comes into my mind is grab a cookie. You know you want it. And I'm like, well, let's think this through. I'm a diabetic. What's going to happen if I take that cookie? I'm going to have to do jumping jacks to stop the pain in my feet. Do I want to waste my time doing jumping jacks? Or do I just want to have a yogurt that's got some Metamucil, some protein, and some pumpkin seeds? Yes, it's delicious. It's sweet enough. And it flushes my system. I'll have that feeling dissipated in my stomach. Okay. And, you talk yourself out of it. Just like that. And then the thought goes away. But if it don't go away and it just keeps getting stronger and stronger and stronger, pray. Because Satan's not letting you go. And the only one who can make him go away is God. God, give me the strength to do what I was about to do and not cave into the sin, please. All right? So I gave you a path. Just remember, it's urgent you, but you can rule over it. And I told you how. Think it through. And if you have to, pray to God. God is right there. He is literally in the air around you. He's within the temple of your body. He hears what you hear. He feels what you feel. He knows your feelings and your thoughts. Everything. Nothing is disguised from him. He knows every second and everything you do and go through. So when you're praying to him, you're letting him know, yeah, I'm putting my foot down. I need your help. How many times have you reached out to your spouse or your family? I've been struggling with this. I need help. I can't do this no more. Can you help me with this? You even expect our children to ask for help for their homework, right? So come out with it. Say it to God. Let him know you need that help. He knows you're suffering. But he wants to hear it from you. Because if he don't hear from you, you've got free will. He's not stepping in. You're not an animal that needs to be herded. You are an intelligent being he created in his own image. So you need to let him know he has permission to override your free will and assist you. All right? So, Cain went through that, and in spite of God's forewarning him, he went and killed his brother. Now, here's the thing. God does talk to Cain after he has murdered his brother. The conversation between Cain and God is heartbreaking, really. There's so many people in this world, they hear what they want to hear and not what's being said. And that's the case here in the Bible. So let me read to you what I wrote. I explained, Earth is sentient. Cain spilled his brother's blood and the ground absorbed it. The ground is the earth. So it's refusing to allow Cain to have any produce. His arrogance, he believed he could make that ground produce goods, but the ground is refusing to yield. And that's what God is seeing. And as long as Cain has slaughtered the blood of another, doesn't matter if it was his brother, it could have been anyone, the earth would have refused to cooperate for him. Well, so we start at the top. Cain tilled the ground and brought fruit of the ground to offer to the Lord. Because Cain killed Abel and the ground absorbed Abel's blood, God told him that the ground would not give him produce if he tilled the ground. God's not cursing Cain. He's just informing him. But that is not how Cain is seeing it. Right? And God also told Cain that he would be a constant wanderer on the earth. Again, that's not how Cain is hearing it. Do you know what God, after God said that to him, Cain's like, so you don't want to see me ever again. It's not because of that. You would have had to be a wanderer because you're not going to be able to till the ground no matter where you go. You're just going to keep going until you think you found something. You're going to realize you can't find anything. It's no one's fault but your own for putting blood on your hands. The earth, no matter where you go, isn't going to yield to you. And you're just going to keep wandering, hoping you'll prove yourself wrong. So that's what I wrote in the next paragraph. It is like the earth is sentient, and God knows it will refuse to cooperate with Cain and to give any produce, since he caused the earth to absorb and swallow the blood of another. And God says to Cain that he will wander, but it is likely because Cain will never find a place to settle down, since he cursed his relationship with the earth as a grower and will never find an acceptable place to settle down. So Cain misunderstands and thinks he is to be a wanderer because God wants him to avoid being in his sight. Cain believes that because of this, people all over will want to kill him since he no longer has God's protection. So do you see how God saying one thing led to the next thing, which is going to be Cain asking God to protect him, and God's all willing, knowing wisdom isn't questioning Cain, saying, where on earth did you come up with that idea? Not correcting him at all. He's like, yeah, sure. Have a blessing. If it makes you feel better, here. He's the best father in the whole world. He doesn't question us. He doesn't say, like, are you stupid? That's not what I said. Instead, he pats us on the head. He's like, it's okay, I promise. Here, use this blanket if it makes you feel warmer. That's our Heavenly Father. See, this is why I love to study the scripture over and over again, because you find how your Father truly is by seeing how he treated our forebears. So, Cain believes that because of this, people all over the earth will kill him, so he no longer has God's protection. So God gave Cain a protective blessing. If anyone kills Cain, Cain shall be avenged 7 times. So the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one would kill him at sight. After that, Cain left and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Notice it's east of Eden. There's a really big difference. He's not in Eden. He's not in the same land his parents are in. They're very far apart. Right? Remember, I said that. The other thing is, why would people know by just seeing him that he killed someone? At the time, there's no mark, right? God has to put the mark on to prevent people from killing him. As if to say, this person is protected, don't touch them, right? But before God puts that mark on, there's nothing, no telltale sign that Cain murdered someone. We don't walk around and an aura surrounds us. It's visible to everyone. It says, hey, I'm a murderer. I'm a murderer. Come and kill me. No. No, we don't have such a thing. But this is why I'm saying God did this to put Cain's mind at ease. Now, if God was mad at Cain, things would have happened. Like, do you remember the story about the prophet who got swallowed by a whale and then spit out? Well, before he ended up in that whale, he was on a boat and there was a raging storm. God wanted him off that boat. He wanted him head over to where he was sending him. And because of the storm, everyone on that boat knew there was a reason the storm was happening. And they got him to admit who he was. And then they threw him off. That's the only way us fellow humans know if the person in our midst needs to disappear, right? Is if God sends signs. Now, you would think that because the ground doesn't provide fruit or any kind of crops anymore, that would be the sign. Some people are just born with a black thumb. It has nothing to do with if they've spilt blood or not. So there really was no sign. God was literally just telling this to Cain to put him at ease. You know, look, no one's going to kill you at first sight. Here is something I can mark you with that will ensure no one does. You know, he's trying to put Cain's mind at ease. He's an awesome father, really is. So, like I said, when Cain left, he went to Nod, which is nowhere near Eden. It's the east of Eden, but it's not anywhere near Eden. Let me see if I can show you. Hold on. How far is Nod from Eden? All right, let me change my view so I can show you. Window. Here it is. Share. The distance from Nod to Eden isn't a specific number of miles because the land of Nod isn't a known geographical place, but a symbolic location described in Genesis as east of Eden, where Cain wandered after being banished, representing exile and restlessness, with its name possibly derived from the Hebrew word for wandering. So it's as far as being cast out from God's presence, not a measurable distance on the map. Now, that's just someone's interpretation that AI pulled. If you show more, the very first things you see, these are all the places it pulled that information from. But I'm telling you, just because we don't know what East of Eden is, doesn't mean it exists. The world is completely different from what it used to be. All right, let me go back to my thing here. All right, so as I had explained, God sent Cain really far away from his parents, and he put a mark on him, and he blessed him, saying, if anyone touches him, God will avenge him 7 times. Keep that in mind, right? Now, take a look at this family tree of Cain's. He had given birth to Enoch, and then he founded a city and named it after his firstborn. Seems to me like the name Enoch must have an amazing meaning behind it. You don't know what it is. It's probably something in Hebrew, because it appears again when Seth is born. We'll get to that in a minute. Then he had Arad, Mahajal, Mehujael. I am not Jewish, and I am probably killing this name. I'm sorry. And then he had Lamech. And then Lamech had 2 wives and all these sons. Now, this is during the time when you had the fallen angels and they were showing mankind how to do certain crafts. So these children picked up those crafts. And you have Jabal, this one here. His children, they dwelled in tents and kept livestock. And then you have Jubal. They played the lyre and the reed pipe. And then you had Tubal-Cain. His children forged instruments of bronze and iron. I don't recall Nama being mentioned at all. But what I can tell you is that the knowledge that these guys had got widespread. And when Noah and his children got on that boat, his children and Noah had those skills. They built the boat because they had those skills, right? And that's why when the new world came, we still had the skills, even though they were taught to these children. So just know that Lamech, he was a bad man, and he did something that displeased God immensely. And as a result, the entire family line had to be rewritten. The names you're going to notice are in the new line is Enoch, Mahajuel, but his name is going to have a few letters replaced. And then you'll see when I get there, because I can't remember. But the reason why they were rewritten is because the Lamech is kind of like the sin from biting that apple condensed itself down its line and really showed its head in Lamech. Because in Genesis 4, chapter 4, verse 24, Lamech told both of his wives that he killed a man for wounding him and a young man for bruising him. They didn't do anything worth being killed for, but he killed them. And in his utterance, he told his wives, if Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. So he's basically commanding God, saying, you gave my great-great-great-grandpa a blessing to prevent from being killed. Well, I'm going to also get that blessing, and I'm getting it 77 times. So he's telling God what God's going to do. God's like, I don't think so, kiddo. So you basically cannot dictate to God what he has to do, because he will deal with you properly and take away your blessings. Notice this is the last line of Cain that is mentioned. It does say that he has children who have children, like the line keeps going, but this is the last line that's actually mentioned, because God takes his blessing away from Cain. Any success is going to be thrown away with the flood. Now, let's go to Seth. Whoops, wrong screen. Come on. This is Seth. Now, I put Cain's line in black because his line's going to be drowned along with the rest of humanity. But you'll notice Enoch, his name is rewritten over here. Mahajuel, his name is rewritten as Mahalalel. And then Lamech, the bad boy, his name got rewritten into someone of worth. You see how God rewrote the entire line? And he did it under Seth. Now, Adam was 130 years old when Cain's 4th generation of his family line decided they were going to sacrifice their own future by threatening God, by commanding him. 130 years. I think that's why I came to believe that Adam and Eve were like in their 70s. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 60 years. So I don't know how I did my math. I was probably somewhere wrong, but Adam was 130 years when he finally had Seth. And before that, from the time Abel was murdered up until Seth was born, God gave them no children. After Seth was born, Eve's womb opened up like a floodgate, and all the other children were born. So when they say Cain had a wife, that wife is not a sibling. That wife Who knows where she came from? But if there were other siblings that were born with Cain and Abel, the Bible does not say it. We are not supposed to make assumptions if it's not written there. And if God wanted to grace us with the knowledge of where Cain's wife came from, he would have granted it to us. But in God's great wisdom, there's no point in us knowing because Cain's line's gone. Bye-bye. Who cares where his wife came from? Now, had Lamech been a good boy and not murdered people, the blessing would have continued, and we eventually would have known who Cain's wife was. And when it was time to flood the earth, Noah would have came from Cain's line, and all the information about who his wife was, Cain's wife was, and all that good stuff would have been brought over from the flood. We would have that. God would have found it important enough for us to know. But it's not important because Cain got thrown away along in the flood. Now, you'll notice it doesn't tell you when Noah got married and had a wife, it does not tell you where his wife came from. If she came from Cain's line or the anomaly. And that doesn't matter either. What matters is that every children that she had cooperated and continued to stay with God. And all of humanity came out of those new lines. So, I just wanted to let you know, when you mess with God, when you make dictations to him and you tell him, you're going to do this. I'm getting it from you because you gave it to someone else. You don't dictate to God because he will deal with you. And he may wipe out your entire family. He may rewrite your entire family, overwrite its existence if no one remembers you. So watch how you deal with God or see how he deals with you. So, I leave you with this. You can pause the video, do a screenshot or a snippet, and then print it out and hang it on your wall. But let this be a reminder that you're in control of sin and it doesn't control you. And don't sin and then dare God to do something. Don't say, I can do as I please and you're not going to do diddly squat about it. And you're going to continue to let me in the heaven's gates. Don't do that. So don't sin and don't challenge God. Okay? So that's what I have for you. And I would like you to go into the new year with the resolution that you are going to work on becoming aware of what's causing your sinful nature, what triggers and emotions and thoughts are happening. And then I also want you to work on telling yourself no and having to get through it. And even if you fail, you keep trying. Do you know, and this is not something I would, as a Christian, be proud to say, but I'm telling you about it because you need to know. I come from a family that they really enjoy sex. And from an extremely young age, I used to masturbate. And then when I become a godly person and started reading the Bible, I came to understand that that's a sin. Now, there are people like my husband who believe that what's written in the Bible is meant for men because it's spilling the seed. Women have no seed to spill. God doesn't want us touching ourselves. He wants us to give ourselves to our spouse. Your body belongs to your spouse only. You don't get to do as you please with it. That's marriage. So it's taken a long time for me to get over I would like to say craving, but it's not a craving. I can't put it any other way. like the desire. There you go. To you know, and there were so many triggers that it took me a long time to work through overcoming each type of trigger. It's taken me a decade, and I do not masturbate anymore. So I have a whole laundry list of other things I have to overcome. Like if I'm watching TV and something, my hormones are in just the right condition, and something on TV triggers it, my mind will go off and start thinking of a dirty scene between those two people. That's me causing them in my mind to have adultery. I need to overcome that. So there's just little things. As you're cleaning up your soul, you're going to notice all these other things that we're hiding. But that's the key of our life, is to find out what's so sinful in us and to work on getting rid of it and bring God into it so that he can assist us and strengthen us when we're going through this. That's the key. You know what I'm saying? Is so that when you take your last breath, God will welcome you with open arms because you have purified yourself. You didn't just get rid of sin. You made it so that you can deny Satan easily. So no matter what he was saying, you're going to say, go away. And he'll go away. Because there's one thing Satan cannot fight against, and it's a pure soul. You have to cleansify yourself. I just made up a word. Cleansify. Cleanse and purify. Cleansify. Okay. So make this the year you get started. You don't know how many tomorrows you got guaranteed from God. All right. I love you, my fellas. Happy New Year, and God bless you. Bye.